Hello, and welcome to the Patience to Prosperity podcast, where we learn how to act in opposition of our limiting beliefs in order to reach our fullest potential. Hey guys, it's Lizzie. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Patience to Prosperity podcast. I'm so happy to have you here, whether you be someone who's returning to this podcast and has listened before, or this is your first episode. I welcome everyone in every single stage of your healing journey. Recently, I have gotten a little more into journaling. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I have not journaled in a while. And I get to these points in my life where I know that journaling would help me, but I'm still avoiding it, and I still can't get myself to just sit down and open up my journal, and instead I avoid that by, doom scrolling on my phone or just doing anything other than what I know I need to do. So it kind of feels like a form of self-sabotage when I'm not journaling, but subconsciously know that it always makes me feel better after I do it. It kind of just feels like I'm abandoning myself in a way. And I know I'm not the only person that feels that way. I know that there's people that can resonate with that, because journaling forces you to look inner. And a lot of the times when we know that there's a lot of inner turbulence going on, we don't want to do the work to go inner. So we avoid journaling, we avoid doing the shadow work, and we end up feeling worse as a result. And then what happens is that by the time you do open up that journal, at least for me, I don't know if I'm just projecting on you guys right now, but I get really overwhelmed when I open up my journal again after it being a long time of me not journaling, because I don't know where to start. I don't know where the last thing I said when I left off of was. I don't know what situation specifically I should be honing in on right now, because it's been so long since I took this time to just sit down with my thoughts and write them out on paper. So today, if you are feeling any of those, whether it be you have never journaled in your life, or that you used to journal a lot and you're trying to get back into it, but you keep avoiding it in a similar way of how I just described it to you now. Wherever you are in your journaling journey, this episode is going to help you get back into it. It's going to give you some reassurance that you are on the right path, even if you haven't been journaling. It's going to allow you to see different perspectives so that you are not putting rules on yourself every single time you open your journal. And you see that as a space for you to freely express yourself however it looks like to you. So before we really get into the nitty-gritty today, I want to kind of explain why journaling is so important to us, because I feel like when we stop engaging in a hobby or a habit that once brought us any sort of peace, that once gave us any sort of clarity, whatever it be, but we know that there's a lot of inner work to go into it, going back to that thing can be hard. And I think it's really important to remind yourself how important it is, why you do it. Let's not be so focused on the how of things, how we're going to journal, how it's going to look like, and how we have to structure it. When you choose to journal, when that thought goes through your head, it's going through your head for a reason. So let's ask ourselves why. Why do I need to journal right now? And that usually just opens up the gates for you to be able to explore that further through journaling, through writing out your thoughts, and then surprising yourself with what comes up. Because a lot of the times when we journal, we don't realize that we've felt a certain way until we finally open up that notebook and put that pen to our paper and just let our minds run free. Hey guys, I'm popping in here while I drink my mud water. Today I made a little chai tea latte with the original starter pack, which, by the way, all starter kits right now on the Mudwater website are 50% off for Black Friday. So I would hop on that if I were you guys, because on top of that, if you use my code, which is just my name, Lizzie Arduino, which I will have in the show notes below, if you use my code, you will get 15% off And if you choose to purchase the starter pack and also subscribe, you get $20 off on top of that. So use that to your advantage this holiday season. Mudwater's a great gift for others as well as yourself. Their original starter kit, which is what I have been drinking lately and I absolutely love, is made of masala chai, cacao, lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, reishi, cinnamon, turmeric, and Himalayan salt. Those are all the ingredients in it. Ingredients that you can pronounce that are all 100% organic. So make sure that this holiday season we're looking out for ourselves and for our minds. And if mushrooms are something that are scary to you, girl, I completely understand that, but I want you to know that things like lion's mane just help to support our cognitive brain function, which will help you lock in during the day. I've been loving to drink my mud water while I edit episodes, especially because I feel like it really just helps me stay focused and present on what I'm doing. So if you're anything like me and you have a little coffee dependency, maybe you depend on energy drinks a lot, or you just want to start supporting your brain and your body's everyday function, and you are on a journey to feel your absolute best, then pick up some mud water today to help support your body's everyday needs. Go to mudwater.com/Lizzie Arduino to get yours today. That's mudwtr.com/LIZZIEARDUINO. Back to the pod. So I guess I just covered one of the reasons why journaling is so important is because it exposes thoughts that you don't typically allow to surface naturally. You maybe suppress these thoughts more, or the thoughts that come up when you're journaling are tied to another thought that is constantly running through your head, but you weren't able to get to that next level thinking without journaling, because journaling is a tool. It is a tool that we use to help us come back to ourselves, to give ourselves clarity. Because like I say all the time in this podcast, no one else can give you clarity or closure or peace in a situation. You are the only person that can give yourself closure. So if closure is something that has been going through your mind a lot lately, and maybe you have just been going through a wave of emotions with someone and it's kind of coming to an end, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's ending yet. Well, one, I would advise you to, of course, journal. But two, I also have an episode on giving yourself clarity. And that's an episode that I hold really near and dear to my heart because it came from a time and place where I was seeking closure and I was able to give myself that. And I think what I worked through in that episode through talking to you guys, because talking on the mic to me is a form of journaling almost. It is a form of therapy almost. It's kind of like talk therapy, except I'm talking to myself, which is why I kind of associate it more with journaling. I'm able to come to my own conclusions in my head about topics when I sit and talk to you guys on the mic. But anyways, I advise you to go back to that episode. I believe it was from season 3. If you're looking for some closure, some clarity right now, I think that could really help you. And let me know if you guys want me to start linking episodes that I advise you guys to go and listen to, because I know the concepts in the podcast can be so interconnected sometimes that I like to bring up other episodes for you to go and listen to, just to give you the full picture, to really hone in on that specific thing that I'm talking about, if I think that it's really important when it pertains to grasping the idea of what I'm talking about in this podcast, if that makes any sense. So let me know if you want me to link those in the show notes for further episodes. But with that being said, I'm also going to mention the fact that I put journal prompts in every single show notes of each and every episode that I upload. And I specifically curate these journal prompts, or shadow work, if you will, to be an extension of the podcast episode that you're listening to, so that you can go to those show notes and really feel like you have tangible steps to take next after listening to the episode. Because Listen, I'm a podcaster, but I'm also someone who avidly listens to podcasts. And I know that we don't always follow up with everything that the podcaster is telling you to do right after you listen to that podcast or immediately while you're doing it. A lot of the times when we're listening to podcasts, we're doing other things. We're not completely present, just sitting down in our beds, staring up into space and letting their words hit us. As much as I would love my audience to do that, because I do feel like there is a level of presence that you need to be able to embody when listening to a podcast in order to fully grasp the concepts that are being kind of thrown at you all at once. But needless to say, since we often do other things when listening to podcasts, I think it's just so easy to lose sight of what they're saying sometimes and what they're really trying to help us grasp and the tangible steps they're trying to give us. So I really put those journal prompts there in order for you guys to go back to them at any given time that you might need to. So not only do you have those episodes forever to go back to, but you also have the journal prompts there for you if you just needed to find some inspiration in that. So I highly advise you to use those prompts to your advantage, especially for today's episode. But anyways, back to journaling. So why do we really need to journal, other than the fact that sometimes it makes us more aware of our thoughts, or it gives us new thoughts to gain new perspectives on and string new thoughts together to give us some clarity, to bring us to some sense of peace? I think that journaling is a way of showing yourself that you care about yourself. It is an act of self-love every single time you open your journal. And if all else fails, and you didn't get anything out of your journal, and maybe it just caused more anxiety, what you do have at the end of the day is the fact that you can hone in on the sense that you just did something for yourself, that you just opened your journal, even though it was hard, even though it's caused spiraling emotions now because you haven't allowed yourself to open up to even understanding the weight of these emotions yet and why they're coming up and what story they're tied to. All of those stuff you figure out through journaling, but when you haven't journaled for so long, maybe it can feel overwhelming. And at the end of the day, what you really have to hold on to is telling yourself, okay, but I just showed up for myself. But that was an act of self-love. I knew that it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be challenging and that it was going to bring on some emotions. But I did it anyways because I care so deeply about myself. And I care so much about myself that I want to give myself the clarity on this situation. That I know that I deserve peace of mind on this situation. And that's not to say that every time you open your journal, you have to get really deep into concepts that you have been suppressing for a while. Yes, that's really important, and you should be doing that every now and then, but I don't want us to put these rules and restrictions on ourselves when we're journaling that we have to do it a certain way. And that goes into some of the tips and tricks that I'm going to give you guys today on journaling, because that one I think is honestly the biggest one. You cannot set any rules on yourself before, during, after journaling. This is your journal. This is your slab of paper that you bought for yourself to do whatever you wanted to do with it. There are blank papers all over inside that journal. They are not asking to have words written on those pages a specific way, to talk about certain concepts only on those pages. Your journal is not restricting you. You are restricting you. So give yourself the creative freedom of doing whatever the hell you want with that journal. Whether it be dedicating 5 pages to just doodling. It's your journal. You're allowed to do that. And sometimes maybe you'll open up your journal and you don't really know what you want to talk about. Sometimes when I don't really know what to journal about because I feel really overwhelmed and I'm not sure what exactly I need to hone in on, sometimes I'll open my journal and then I'll just start doodling. And it'll come to me as I'm doodling because when you're drawing, you're still practicing presence and you're still self-soothing, you're still doing something that is not bad for you, it's completely okay. And I'd argue very beneficial to just doodle sometimes and to just let yourself freely draw and not put restrictions on yourself on whether it's good enough. And then once I give myself the creative freedom of doing whatever I want to do on that page, maybe it's writing a quote and then drawing around it or whatever it might be, then it opens up my mind to wanting to get into depth further into topics that are coming through my head while I am drawing on my page. So going off of that, I want you guys to be creative with this. I want you to release any judgments, any fears, any restrictions that you have going into it. That is huge. That is the only way that you're actually going to reap the benefits of journaling, is if you completely let that wall down, whatever that wall may be for you. First, assessing what that wall is. What is that barrier that is stopping you from opening your journal? What is that barrier? And maybe that's your first journal that you need to give yourself to get back into it. Maybe you need to ask yourself, why haven't I journaled? What am I avoiding? And that will open up the door for you. But you have to know that there's not one right way of journaling. First of all, there's no right or wrong way of doing anything. So why would there be a right and wrong way of journaling? You know, you can give yourself prompts and shadow work to do, which is essentially exactly what I give to you guys in the show notes of every episode. It's just kind of giving yourself a question and then building off of that, creating a response off of that. You can do intention and reflection work, which I like to use by incorporating it as a morning and nightly reflection. So I will give you guys an example here. I have my journal out in front of me right now, right next to my mud water that I'm drinking. My mud water has been bringing me so much happiness lately. Like, I have perfected my drink of choice to a T. I've been making myself a little dirty chai mud water latte. It is delicious. So good. And I feel so good after it. I'm halfway through it and I feel so much more energized than I did when I first sat on the mic. But anyways, I just love mud water. And I know that you guys will too. So I'm looking at a little morning check-in that I wrote on the left side of my journal and a night reflection that I wrote on the right side of my journal. And I made it a little fun for myself this day, I guess, by using some colored pens. So I used warm colors for the morning and cool colors for the night. Just because, sometimes it's nice to make it look a little aesthetically pleasing just for yourself, but that does not mean that it has to be, and I'll get into that. So, some questions that I ask myself in the morning, and I used to do a daily journal where I would do 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, 5 to 10 minutes at night, and I will also get into that because I think that let me get into that right now. Dedicating a specific time to journaling every single day is what is going to help you create that habit, create that routine. It will become habitual if you start cutting out a specific part of your day to just journal and do some inner work. So for my morning check-in, some questions that I ask myself are, how am I feeling this morning? How much sleep did I get last night? What am I looking forward to today? What's one goal for today that I would like to accomplish? How can I make time for myself today? What am I feeling most grateful for today? And then I give myself the option to write down some affirmations or any extra notes or quotes or anything that I'm feeling intuitively when I answer all those questions in my journal. And then on the flip side, my nightly reflection looks something like this. I ask myself, what is something that I'm proud of today? Because that really helps me take pride in my accomplishments, because that's something that I have struggled with a lot. And that's something I also have another podcast episode on. I have also asked myself in this one, how did I honor my mind and body today? Because that one's a huge one for me, to just remind myself of all of the ways in which I showed up for myself today. My next one was, what emotions did I feel most today? Just to get a little bit more in touch with my emotions. And then what that one does is that I can then look at my morning check-in that I wrote, and I can tie those emotions to what I was feeling in the morning. Maybe it has to do with how much sleep I got, because I did ask myself how much sleep I got in my morning check-in. Maybe it has to do with what emotions I was feeling as soon as I woke up in the morning, because the first question I asked myself in my journal was, how am I feeling this morning? That's why I really like doing the morning check-ins and the night reflection, because it really helps me tie my entire day together, and it kind of gives me reassurance and fills in the holes for me to see where the areas in my day were filled in ways that were beneficial to me, and why I maybe felt a little more anxious today. Is that out of something that I did that was in my control? Could I have controlled how my day went a little bit more, or was it out of my control? And should I be giving myself a little more compassion right now? Going off of that, another question I asked myself for my night reflection was, what can I do to make tomorrow even better than today? That is something that I like to ask myself almost every single day, especially on days where they weren't typically seen as my best day ever. Because we're allowed to have quote unquote bad days. We're allowed to have days that we don't feel our best. We're supposed to have days where we don't feel our best, so that we can ask ourselves these questions on how we can make tomorrow even better. What things were we lacking in today that we can hone in on a little bit more tomorrow to make it feel a little bit lighter, to come back to ourselves a little bit more, to do things that feel good to us. And then I ended my nightly reflection with my biggest challenges of the day. So the one that I'm looking at right now that I wrote 2 days ago was that my anxiety was trying to take me anywhere but the present moment. And I wrote that slowing down was my biggest challenge of the day. And you know what? I probably wouldn't have gotten to those conclusions if I did not reflect on my day. And I wrote this night reflection the other day when I got into journaling again for the first time in a really long time. And I felt so much release when I closed my journal. I felt on top of the world. There was just such a sigh of relief over my entire body after I closed my journal. And that's not me just saying that as a way of getting you guys to journal. I mean, if it does, it does. That's amazing. But it just truly goes to show how much goes unnoticed in your daily life. How much you actually do for yourself every single day that you kind of just brush under the rug, and then you go through this cycle, this loop of just constantly feeling like you're not doing enough because you are not bringing your attention and your awareness to what you're already doing. You're just setting expectations for yourself to keep reaching something higher and higher and higher. And yes, that's so good because you want to grow so bad. That's a good thing that you set these high expectations for yourself. But we are all about setting intentions, not expectations, in this podcast. And I think journaling is one of the best, if not the best way to do that. So I'm going to get into a few tips and tricks for you guys. I know I gave you guys a few already in this episode, but I kind of just want to hone in on a few more because, everyone looks different. Some tips are going to work a lot more for one person than they will for another. And it really just depends on what you're feeling in the moment and what works for you, and you know yourself. So I'm just going to give you a few more. Okay, one of the things, don't laugh when I say this. One of the things that actually helped me so much when I used to do daily and nightly journaling, like my 5-minute journal, which I actually just bought myself one a month ago, and I have been avoiding journaling so much that I haven't really used it much, so I need to get back to that. But something that helped me so much to open up my journal every single day was the fact that I had a funky little pen to write with. And I'm going to explain it to you. My pen was blue and gold, and it had like a little gold crescent moon on the top and some little stars on the pen. It was such a fun little funky pen, and it kind of just brought out my inner child. Like, I don't know if you guys ever had those like pink fuzzy pens with the feathers on the end of them that were like really fluffy, or like any fun pen you can think of when you were a kid. Like, that's what it made me feel like when writing with this pen, and I feel like it genuinely made me want to write in my journal more. With that being said, I think that if you maybe assign this pen as solely just the pen you use to journal, I think it makes it special, and it helps you attach some meaning to it and some purpose behind it, so that every single time you get to use this pen, you're also like engaging in a form of self-love by journaling, but also kind of healing your inner child by playing with the little funky pen at the same time. Like, it's so fun. It's so fun. So I highly suggest you like going on Etsy, going on, I would say Amazon, but I kind of have beef with Amazon right now. That's besides the point. Go to Etsy, because we support small businesses on this podcast always, through and through. And you'll find cuter stuff there too. I already told you guys a lot, 5 to 10 minutes, a specific part of your day, every single day to create a habit. So I'm not going to go over that one too much. And then I want to hone in a little bit more on the releasing any rules or restrictions that you're placing on journaling. Asking yourself what restrictions you're actually putting on yourself, becoming aware of what those restrictions are. And I know I already said that, but some of the ones that I just wrote out on a bullet point in front of me right now is, I can't say that because what if someone reads it? This one was huge for me. Huge. Because I have always had this irrational fear that someone was going to read my journal. And maybe it's because I lived in a house where I had 4 siblings. I shared a room with my sister, and people were always coming in and out of my room, that maybe it caused some fear, I guess, to arise that someone was going to go through my stuff, because it's not as though they haven't before. But that's besides the point. In order for you to actually reap the benefits of journaling, you have to go in with the mindset that you are the only person that will ever read this thing. You are the only person that has any access to your truest thoughts. No one else is going to read them. I promise you that. And if it gives you some sort of peace by hiding this journal in a place where only you would be able to find it, then go ahead and do that. But I also put down here as a tip for you guys that you want to make your journal accessible to you. You want to make sure that your journal is always at arm's reach, somewhere where you can always find it, so that you always have that support system with you, and you always feel like you have a tactic to help you self-soothe right in your back pocket. Guys, I cannot even tell you how heavy my backpack is. I am a college student, if you don't know that already. And my backpack, besides my literal 20 million pound laptop that I carry around every single day, I have a journal where I write anything I want to in it. Shadow work, prompts, nightly reflections, morning reflections, whatever it might be. Just like whatever goes, anything goes journal. I have a journal that is solely for all my yoga lesson planning. So I carry that one around me wherever I go, just in case I intuitively have the desire to write a lesson plan when I'm on campus. And I don't want that to be in my main journal, because I want all of my lesson plans to be together. Oh God, this is exposing myself a little bit, actually. But I also have another journal just for the podcast. It doesn't stop there. It does not stop there. This is not me saying that I need you guys to get a journal for every single hobby that you have in your life. This is just me branching off of the tip that I gave you guys of having a journal in your back pocket all the time, and me just being actually neurotic about it and having 3 on me at all times. So, you know what? Take that as you will. If you want to set a journal for a specific goal that you have in mind, then get a journal for that. Whatever works for you. There are no rules in journaling. Absolutely zero rules. It is whatever works for you. But I just want you to be mindful of whatever restrictions you are putting on yourself before opening that journal up. Because you are completely in control of how much you reap the benefits of journaling. That is completely in your control. You are the only person that is asking you these deep questions about yourself, trying to get to the root of your problems. The deeper and deeper and deeper that you go, the more you're going to expose the truths about your thoughts and about yourself and about the situation and your perspective on it and what emotions you're attaching to it. All of that, you are in control of exposing, of becoming aware of. Another restriction that you might be telling yourself is it needs to look pretty. Your journal has to be aesthetic. It needs to be really colorful, and the doodles that you do on it have to be really intricate and good and something that you would actually show someone or whatever it might be. Your journal does not have to look pretty. It does not have to look pretty. I understand that thought process completely. I feel like I've gone through that too, where I feel like everything has to be aesthetically pleasing. And I think the reason why we think that way is because whenever you see examples of someone else's journal, it is always quote unquote perfect. They color code everything. They have these amazing prompts for themselves. They have little cute doodles in the corner that look like they were just perfectly printed on there or whatever. But you have to understand that no one is going to post a picture of the messiness of their journal because it exposes the messiness of their thoughts. You know, like no one is going to post their rant sesh, their complete vent dump where they just kept writing as sloppy as they could just to get their thoughts out at the same time that their hand was able to move. No one is going to put those pages on the internet for others to see. So of course the only perspective that you get of someone else's journal is going to look like they have it all together. But that is so not true. That is so not true. And listen, sometimes it might make you feel better to have an aesthetically pleasing journal. And that's not to say that it can't be. It absolutely can be. But I just want you to know that you don't have to set the intention that every single page that you touch has to turn into this complete masterpiece that would go into an art museum one day. Like, there is magic behind you exposing your truest, most vulnerable thoughts freely without judging yourself, without worrying what your handwriting looks like, without worrying how much space you're taking up on the page. Take up space. You were put here to take up space. Whether you take that as a metaphor for journaling or physically in life, take up space. That is okay. Another rule or restriction that you might be putting on yourself, backpacking off of that, is that you need to journal about something different today. Because the last time that you opened your journal, you were writing about this same topic. And you kind of get frustrated with yourself that you're still stuck on the same topic. But guess what? You're still stuck on this topic because you haven't fully released or detached from it yet. And journaling is what is going to help you do that. So give yourself the space to do so. Don't add this level of guilt and shame to still being somewhat attached to whatever situation you're trying to work through right now. That is okay. And something I want you to know, something that I have been telling myself a lot lately, and I like to go to a lot of the times when, especially like when I've been wronged in a situation and I feel like I'm still attaching to it and I still care about it, and my thoughts come in where I'm like, oh, why do you still care? Like, why can't you just let go of this already? Whenever that comes through, I like to tell myself, it is such a beautiful thing that you still care about this. It is such a beautiful thing because the fact that you still care about this person or this situation or whatever you're going through that's so hard to shake right now, it shows that you care and that you love so deeply. That you can't just spend an entire year with someone and then forget about them with the snap of a finger. That shows how deeply you care as a human being. And that's a beautiful thing. That's not something that you should be shameful about. Okay, lastly, before I let you guys go, my last tip for you is to prepare prompts for your future self to be able to go to be able to open up your journal to at any given point of time. And maybe for you, that's going to look like a morning check-in page and a night reflection page. I know that's what I did with my last reflection that I kind of explained to you guys in this episode a little bit. I already had those questions written out for me in my journal. And the other day when I was really feeling called to journal, but I know that I've been putting it off, I opened it up. I felt really overwhelmed, didn't really know what to say, and I found this page that I didn't write in yet, but I had all the prompts, all the questions already laid out for me. And I found it so much easier to just get everything out that I needed to because I already set up the framework for myself. So I know that that helped me personally, and I wanted to add that as a tip for you guys too, to maybe just try it out and see if it works for you. Give yourself the option, maybe write a morning or night reflection, or just take a prompt from today's episode or from a previous episode and write it down in your journal. And if you don't feel called to answering the question and getting deeply into that part of yourself right now, then leave it for another time for you to come to when you feel more called to it. I think that one has really helped me, and I think it could be really beneficial for all of you too. So take that as you will. I'm done yapping about writing with a silly little pen in a little journal that helps our little human brains feel at ease for once. I don't know, we just gotta think of it in the sense of like, when we were little, we used to have little diaries, and we didn't think anything of that because we didn't place any sort of expectations on that diary. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I guess that's kind of a subjective experience, having a diary when you were younger. Needless to say, you didn't set any expectations up on yourself when you were younger and you had a little diary. I know for me personally, I had a page in my diary where I literally would I would stick all of the stickers that I got from the dentist office on my journal. And those little SpongeBob stickers or something, they did it for me that time and I wanted them in my journal. So I put them in my journal. Make it fun. Make it fun. Channel your inner child through you when you journal and make it a fun experience. Stop attaching this really heavy, reflective kind of motive behind it, because yes, that's what it helps you do at the end of the day, but allow it to speak to you in whatever way it needs to. Allow your journal to call to you and to open up any single form of creative expression that you need to get out in the moment, whether it be a complete rant sesh on something, whether you need to give yourself a prompt because you need a little bit of structure that day, or you want to just doodle, or you want to stick some stickers in your journal. Whatever it might be, give yourself the freedom of doing that. Anyways, I hope that you guys got something from today's episode. I hope that if you are just starting out in your journaling journey, or if you've been in a little bit of a slump with it, I really hope that this episode helped you in whatever way it did. And that being said, if it did, I would love to hear your feedback. So if you guys could shoot me a DM at Patience to Prosperity or on my main Instagram, Lizzie Arduino, I will have my socials plugged in the show notes below, as well as the link to your 15% off code for Mudwater. Reminder, if you purchase that starter pack and also subscribe, you get $20 off on top of that. And with your first Mudwater purchase, they throw in a free frother. Oh my gosh, guys, I can't say that right now. They throw in a free frother for you guys to get you started in your Mudwater journey. But anyways, I'm done yapping. I need to close this off so I don't start talking about 10 other things. But I just want to thank you guys so much for your support, whether it be your first time listening to this podcast or the 20th episode that you've listened to. Thank you so much for your support. I hope that you continue to come onto this journey with me and that we can heal ourselves in the process and become a beautiful community together of like-minded people that just want to support each other's growth and see everyone thrive. You are loved, you are worthy, and you are completely capable of accomplishing even your wildest dreams in this life. You do not have to do anything to be worthy in this life. You are inherently worthy. You are born worthy. And as always, come as you are and leave a little more healed.